Robyn in Arizona. Robyn, how are you doing tonight?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Robyn!
Oh, this is a reunion.
Yes, it is. How are you?
Hey Ethan, I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm doing well. How's the weather?
It's beautiful here because I'm in Arizona.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I want to be out there. Chicago weather, it's starting to get cold. Although today has been a nice day.
Yeah.
So Robyn, you and
Definitely
Ethan,
enjoy it down here.
just to paint the picture here, you and Ethan have a good amount of history on call-ins, right? This isn't the first time you guys are talking, but I believe this is my first time talking to you.
Robyn has actually been on my show before with Jenna Belk. And we did some was it tarot card readings?
Yes, and talked about spirituality and things. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Robyn, what did you call us to talk about today?
You know, I thought it would be fun to talk about an experience that I had with what I can only describe, or at least what I have now described as a ghost cat experience.
A ghost cat?
Yes, a ghost cat. So this is
a literal cat who's a ghost?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool.
I want to hear more about this. Keep going.
All right. So, ghost cat experience. I had bought this little runt of the litter cat that I named Maya. She and I had a special connection. She slept between my legs or under my armpit every night and waited for me by the door, and we had a great relationship. She was just the sweetest cat ever. I was living in the desert of California, and for whatever reasons, I had to do a road trip where I picked up a car in North Carolina and I drove it all the way back to where I was living in California. Of course, I did not bring my cat with. So while I was gone, I traveled from North Carolina to Chicago, and then I went through Missouri, and I spent the night with a girlfriend of mine. So I'm in the bedroom, and the door is closed, and there are no animals or anything in the room, just me. And I'm laying on a waterbed. You all know what waterbeds are like. So the first night that I'm there at about 10:30, I'm laying completely still on the waterbed, and all of a sudden the waterbed moved. Like it felt like a cat-sized creature jumped on the bottom of the bed, and it made the water move from my feet going up to my head. I was like, that's really weird. And so I wake up in the morning and I tell my friend, I'm like, do you have any like ghost cats hanging around the house? Because it felt like something jumped on the bed last night. And she's like, oh, I've had a lot of, cats. It could be, you never know. And the next night comes, and it's about 11:15, and I'm laying in the bed. And again, at the bottom of the bed, it feels like a cat-weighted sized creature jumped on the bottom of the bed. It made the waterbed move all the way up to my face. And I just, felt kind of like a cat. So I was just like, hi, kitten, because I'm a weirdo. So next couple days go by. I'm driving my way from Missouri to California, and I get a call from the person that I'm staying with. And he says, I really am sorry to tell you this. I wanted to wait until you got back, but 3 nights ago, Maya ran away, and she hasn't come back. And so the reason I'm convinced that this is a ghost cat is because I had no idea that she was dead. And on the night that she disappeared was the first night that I had the experience. And I also had like a spiritual sense, or maybe it was just by the feeling of the water moving, that it seemed like a cat. And that is my ghost cat story.
Okay, so
what's
your take on this, Ethan? Let's start with you. Go ahead.
Well, for one, I am terribly sorry about the cat. You know me, and I love kitties, and I would be absolutely devastated if I lost my baby.
I was. I drove from the Grand Canyon back that night, and I called out for her, but I knew she was dead because she already came and said goodbye to me. That's kind of how I, rationalized that experience. It was sad.
So this makes me sad, and it makes me not want to ask questions because I.
Okay, I'll lead with the first one.
Honestly, like 12 years ago.
Okay, well let's start with it. And this is something that's because I am a cat owner. I've been a cat owner ever since I was like 15 years old. And one thing that I had to learn to do with cats is not to anthropomorphize their behavior, because I don't think that they do things for the reasons we think they do things. I've heard and I can find a source on this, and we'll talk about this in other places too, that when a cat likes to sleep on you, it's more out of a sense of they want to be able to detect when you're moving because they feel like they have to protect you, right? So if they accidentally fall asleep, then at least if you move, it's going to wake them up and they can go right back into protector mode, right? Like the reason they give you gifts, like, they leave dead animals on your bed. It's not out of kindness. It's more out of a sense of this is how adult cats teach their kittens how to hunt. They give them dead prey or close to dead prey to practice hunting. So your cat's not giving you gifts and being affectionate. They're telling you you're a lousy provider and you need to really work on your hunting skills. So, so when I think about animals, the first thing that I think of is, their behavior. They do have patterns of behavior. I don't necessarily know that it's a good thing to anthropomorphize it and say and assume that they have the same priorities that we do. I think that cats. I've read a lot of places where cats think of humans as basically gigantic, hairless, really stupid kittens, and we need to be cared for. That's why they follow us down to the basement, because they know that we can't see in the dark very well. So they go down there and lead the way so that we are not in danger.
Wait, you think they're that nice?
I think it's in their best interest to keep us alive, at the very worst, because we're a big body to dispose of. But yeah, okay. And then the other thing that I have to wonder about is how many of these experiences happen at night, right? And one idea that comes up is the idea that it's just when you're in that phase where you're about to fall asleep, and it's possibly some kind of dream state that you're in. Like we've all had that kind of dream where you're walking and suddenly you fall and you lurch awake, right? And it makes me wonder why so many of these occasions happen when it's late at night and the only one who's there is you or maybe your partner, but they're already asleep. Instead of happening in broad daylight when there's a lot of people around. It's like, hey, did anybody just feel a cat walk by? So why do you think, Robyn, these incidents happen at the time that they do?
I truly think that they happen more at night for most people because you're not as distracted by things at night. During the day, there's so many things going on that if an experience like that did happen, you probably wouldn't notice it as much than an experience where you're, laying still and it's quiet and nothing's happening. Then you're more able to be aware of your surroundings.
Okay, that's an interesting take. Go ahead, Ethan.
I have actually a follow-up question. So for a second, let's pretend that you didn't feel the cat that night on the waterbed. How confident are you still that your cat passed away? And if so, why?
I'm sorry, you broke up. Can you repeat that? How confident am I? What?
So for a second, let's pretend that the cat you never felt anything on your bed that night, and you just get home and you find out your cat's gone. Based on that, how confident are you that the cat passed away? And if so, start with that. How confident?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm totally confident. There's on that property that I lived on, it was a big piece of land with a bunch of other big pieces of land, and there were coyotes all day. So, I mean, it makes sense that she wouldn't have survived the night.
Okay. What about the possibility of it just being let me ask you this. What time of night was it? Were you falling asleep? Were you wide awake?
I was still awake for both experiences. I was wound up, and it's hard for me to sleep in like strange places that are not my own bed. So I was awake for sure during both of those experiences.
Were you completely alert, or could you have been dozing off?
No, I was totally alert and awake. I was, for the first experience when it happened, I was texting on my phone at the time. For the second one, I was laying down, but I definitely was not asleep. And the neat part about that is that it was a water bed. It's not like it was a normal bed and it had a little jiggle and it was done. Like the water rippled and you could feel it going from the feet up to the head. And it was like, it lasted, because the water moves for a little while. It lasted for a few seconds. So I was definitely awake for it.
So you'll have to forgive me for this because I wasn't there. I validate the fact that this experience happened to you as you explained it. I am at a loss to have an explanation because I wasn't there. And like you said, it was a number of years ago. Right. So I guess my big question is even if this was true, even it seems like it's a one of, right? And what can we do with this information going forward then? Like, what would be the next step? Obviously, we can't investigate this incident anymore. That's done. So what can we do about this next?
Honestly,
Like, how
there's
can
a
we
lot of
experiment with this some more?
the experimentation, I think, is difficult because it seems like it's based on like your connections, but there is more science that is happening now that's investigating the like energetic connection between things. And I think that as that comes out more, it'll be more scientifically understandable.
Okay. Ethan, any final takes on this?
Are you open to the possibility that it could have just been the movement of the waterbed itself?
Yeah, I mean that's a thought in my mind, but at the same time, have you ever slept on a waterbed and it moved on its own?
I mean, if my weight shifted, yeah, I've seen like it move on its own. Or if, for example, like I kind of like when you're dozing off and you jerk for a second because you wake back up. I've seen it happen with that.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes
Yeah,
as we
but
are,
you moved me.
I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
I'm sorry. I was like, yeah, that's the physical force of you moving and causing it to happen. So my question is, have you ever felt a random bubble or movement that you didn't cause by a movement of your body? That's why, like, when I tie that thought in with like the fact that it happened 2 nights in a row, the weight of what it felt like, and then coinciding with the fact that that first night that she had gone missing a few hours before was the first night that it happened, it makes more sense that way to me than the waterbed moving on its own and it's not tied together, but that's just me.
Well,
So
no, I mean,
what if you had? Oh, sorry. Last question. What
Yeah,
if
go
you
ahead.
had like a muscle spasm that you didn't realize, and then that muscle spasm, moved the bed, but you weren't necessarily aware of the fact that you had a muscle spasm?
Well, I was completely aware, so if my muscles jerked, then I would have known.
Okay.
Ooh.
Well, where I'm going with this, and I definitely like to hear from you, Robyn, because I've listened to your calls before, and this is my first time getting to interact with you. What I'd like to know, like the next time we talk, and I hope that we do talk again, is what we can do with this information in the
Yeah.
future. If it is possible that there's interactions with dead pets, first of all, that'd be really cool because I kind of miss Naji and I kind of miss Chibi. This would be interesting, right? But I would want a little bit more, like, how can we make this something that's predictable? So if you have more information about this, that's
Yeah.
cool. If you're watching us on YouTube, you've probably seen links to our Discord and our Facebook fan groups. So definitely look us up there and give us a little bit more information about this. But thank you very much for calling us and spending your time with
My
us tonight.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Robyn.
For the first time talk. It's been a pleasure. It's nice to talk to you again, Ethan.
Have a good
Always
night,
nice
Robyn.
to talk
Thank
to you,
you.
Robyn. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.